my native language is called Luo. For our North American viewers, Luo is one of the languages spoken in Kenya, East Africa. There are also variations of the same language spoken within some subgroups in the wider Eastern African countries. In the Luo language, the word for my sister is Nyamenwa. Nyamenwa. Literally translated, it is the daughter of our mother. Today's guest is one I can refer to as Nyamenwa, the daughter of our mother. You met her last week. Her name is Joyce. She is back to continue her story, and she might also tell us something about this new book she has written. Hello, viewers. Welcome to this episode of Ebenezer. Thank you for making time and joining us right here on Preach the Word Network, making this show part of your weekly routine. I'm so glad that you have joined us today and that we'll get a chance to know more about Joyce's story, learn something, and witness her Ebenezer moments as she lays her stones of help. We are continuing with that topic of journaling as a way, a method of marking our stones of help. What purpose does journaling serve, and how come some of them can turn into memoirs or even a biography? An important purpose within our Christian faith tradition, a testimony, an acknowledgement of God's love, sharing of God's faithfulness. I mentioned journaling as also an act of self-care for myself, a practice of self-care, of stopping to process my thoughts, to reflect on what's happening, and sometimes map my path to understand. When I understand where I'm coming from, I may be able to predict where I'm likely going, or even make decisions where necessary to change the course. And occasionally, journals can turn into memoir or biographies, and which contributes to sharing one's testimony, one's story, a little wider within your immediate context, but also beyond your immediate context. And if you're looking to improve your journals into memoirs, into fiction, into books, there are a myriad of specialists, trained individuals who can walk you through the process, coach you and walk you through the process of how to take it from your written raw files into potentially a published material. In her blog, Memoir Writing for Geniuses, Wendy Dale poses a question asking, what is tough about memoir is that you need to create a plot out of real life events. Why is this so hard? She asks. For one thing, you have too much information. Everything that has ever happened in your life until that time is potential material. Therefore, you make some selections, what you're looking to convey at the time. When you sift through your journals, when you take time to reflect and process through your life, almost see all the previous events, there may be one that stands out. There may be a time that stands out. There may be an experience that has just stayed with you that you want to reflect on, lessons learned at that time, that may be best shared for people who may be going through the similar experiences or something as close as that experience, to read and see how others have navigated life through such experiences. My journaling has continued, and it's all the material has not evolved and been used into publishing a book. No. I journal just also as a work of processing. I work in healthcare, and therefore also as an instructor, as a supervisor of students and interns. I instill the value of journaling as students, but also when eventually they are practicing as professionals. A way to step back and look at one's work, evaluate one's work, and see lessons that we have learned from our day's work, and work towards improving, seeing potential pitfalls, potential successes, improving areas of growth, and celebrating victories. But not everyone journals. However, everyone has a story to tell. And there are many methods of telling your stories, of sharing your story, your testimony with your audiences. Do share those stories as much as you can, whether it's in social media, whether you journal, a trained journalist who can pen articles, blogs, or books, and share experience and knowledge and skill with a wider audience. By sharing our stories, we share God's love. We give people a window into God's love in our lives. And it is through storytelling that the gospel spread as the disciples narrated their stories, their experiences, having walked with Jesus. Their story touched the lives of many. I now invite Joyce to come back and continue her story. Refill your cups with your beverage of interest. Come for the ride as we listen to Joyce's story. I'll see you on the other side of the conversation. Ebenezer. Welcome back, viewers. I can't wait to hear the rest of the story. Joyce gave us information that connected with us emotionally, experiences that some of us are familiar with and some of us not very much. She put it in context so we can understand better, not just know Joyce better, learn a little bit about her story, but connect with a common human emotion. And Joyce is back today. I'm honored to call her Nyaminoa. We didn't know each other before. We met as adults. How I wish I was part of her inner group right from grade 1. But I'm honored at the point where we met. That's where God ordained for our steps to meet. Mm-hmm. And I learned of the daughter of our mother, who at the right time, we go to know each other and share experiences. And one passion that we share is journaling. Welcome back, Joyce.
Thank you. Thank you to have me back.
It's an honor, and we know your story is big, and we hope to get as much as you're able to, the rest of it. Thank God you've put some of it in a book.
Yes.
And so if we don't catch it, all of it here, this is just a pointer to go and find more of it in the book that you've written.
Yes.
Please tell us something different, a recap of yourself for the viewers who are not here last week, so they can know who exactly is Joyce.
So again, my name's Joyce Owaga Mulama, and I am an advanced practicing registered nurse. Of course, a career that was birthed out of very painful experiences, but out of that have made me an overcomer and that have given me a testimony that I'm able to share with the world. I'm also, of course, a nurse educator. I'm an author. I'm a public speaker. But the best one that I like is I'm a patient advocate. So that's who I am. Yeah.
And it's just not a learned profession. It happens to be a lived experience.
Definitely.
At some point, you are a patient advocate for your own family member.
Yes.
But without enough knowledge, training, or knowing what to do.
Yes.
However, that season and that experience thrust you into this title of a widow.
Yes.
That's where we ended last week. Pick up and tell us, what was that like moving forward from that difficult experience?
So, of course, Like my experience I ended up a widow because I lost my husband. And of course, that incident left me in search. I wanted to find out first and foremost what had made my husband pass away, because like I said, when I took care of him in the hospital, I realized that a lot of mistakes were made. I was angry for a long time, and then I got to that point where I said, this anger is not helping me. Let me channel it around. Let me find out what happened to him, and let me work at gaining more skills so that I can prevent somebody else from going through what I had to go through. And so I found myself, as I usually say, caregiving called me. Caregiving called me. It's not something that I asked for. It's something that I found myself in. And having taken care of my husband at that time, and of course, him telling me, you had missed your calling, I decided, maybe I really missed my calling. Let me find out what this is about. And so, because I was also at that point where I felt the culture was not favoring me, I needed to go somewhere where I could start afresh. As a young girl growing up in a boarding school, I had mentors who had taught me to think outside the box. So one of my desires as a little girl had always been to live in the United States. And so I started to tell God, okay, you need to open a door for me. I need to go to the United States. I need to go somewhere out of Kenya. I need to leave. That opportunity was availed to me. I was able to leave, and I came to the United States. And of course, when I came to the United States, I reminded myself that this was a place where I had an opportunity to now go back to school. And I felt like I wanted to do medicine and be a doctor, but I thought that was going to be too long education. I already had 2 children. And so I was like, I can be a nurse, because I felt I had been there where I was a caregiver. I had learned these skills by myself. So now let me go and learn them the right way. So I enrolled in a nursing school, which was very good for me, because remember also when my husband passed away, I hadn't grieved, because I had a little baby I was breastfeeding. And so I hadn't really grieved. And so going to nursing school helped me not only grieve, but also just go through that process of trying to understand, this is what it takes to actually be an actual caregiver. And I remember one of the episodes in nursing school that was very interesting. The first time that I had to take care of a patient who passed away, it was so interesting that this patient was the same age that my husband was when he passed away. And having to take care of this patient, unfortunately, he also passed away. I had to do the bagging, the final rites. And I cried so much. I didn't realize that I needed to go through that, because to just have that final moment, with him, I felt sorry for the cops, because I cried on him so much. And I was like, instead of seeing him, I was seeing my husband. But that was a moment that helped me to heal.
Yes.
And afterwards, of course, now as a nurse, one of the other things that nursing school helped me with was I always got the best award for best clinical students, because it came naturally to me, because I had been there where I had been taking care of the sick people. And for the first time, I actually realized, wow, maybe this was my calling. And then, of course, during our graduation as nurses, the pledge that we had to say was the Florence Nightingale pledge. And so my husband may have seen something that I did not see. And again, that for me was like another Ebenezer moment. I was like, God, I always knew you were in this, but to remind me that you were actually in it, for me was so reassuring. It gave me that hope that there's nothing that had happened to me or that will happen to me that God is not involved in. He always has a way out of it. And that can also be an encouragement to somebody who is watching. You might even be a widow. Just remember that God is in it. There is something to learn through that pain. There's something to learn through that process.
Thank you, Joyce. Joyce, you have raised an important issue. I don't want to minimize the pain and sorrow of the family of that first patient that you walked with through the end of life. I want to minimize their experience. But I want to see the aspect where God used that experience to help you process your suppressed grief.
Correct.
The age and the gender. When your husband was dying, there was no time to grieve. And after he died, there was no time to grieve. You were a caretaker, you had children, you had to start processing what's next. But
Yes.
it was important for you to deal with this suppressed grief if you're going to step fully into the profession.
Correct.
I am in the health profession and not on your side of the bed. I'm on the other side of the bed, and I come at the end of life with spiritual care and support.
Yes.
But every now and then I see nurses, you wear multiple hats, even though your discipline is clinical. It's a calling that is beyond head knowledge. It's a calling that's heart knowledge.
Yes.
And you put everything.
Yes.
Thank you, Joyce. I want to ask, you have written a book documenting your journey.
Yes.
Tell us something about it. Already, most of the things you've said are in that book. But
Yes.
I just want you to tell us something to look forward to, because very soon you're launching this book. But I want us to know what motivated you. How did that begin? And how has the book, the evolution of the book, helped you through your journey of processing your professional journey?
The book, what motivated me to write this book was that when I looked back at my life, just seeing those moments of God involved and seeing God being able to, to be working in every point, made me realize that there was something about that journey that I did not want to forget.
Yeah.
So I wrote it first for me. And the interesting thing was, even as I wrote the book, I relieved a lot of the incidences, the pains. I also wanted to write this story in my own words, because again, like some of the things that I went through, like being widowed early, you are labeled.
Yeah.
But I wanted to write this story in my own words, expressing my feelings and letting people know that there is need for extend grace. Yeah. To the widow, but also for the widow to the family, because people grieve differently. So the writing of the book, first and foremost, brought a lot of healing to me. Secondly, I wanted to write my story in my own words. I wanted my children to also understand where they came from. I also felt like this was probably the only thing they were going to have about their father, understanding what really happened, because we never really ever sat down to talk about it. And I felt maybe as they read, they'll be able to ask me, okay, Mom, what really happened? And we've had those moments with them when they've come back and we've been like, oh, this is what happened. The oldest one still remembers. The youngest one has no memory of anything, but just having that he can read for himself and one day say, this is what happened, And even for me, for my own family, because remember, I had lost my mom at the age of 5. As children, we never really talked about it. And even my stepmom, I don't even like to call her stepmom because she was my mom's sister, coming in and just been through this book and writing about it, I've been able to go back and ask her, Mom, how was it? Yeah. How did you make it? How did you even do this? And for us as children to go back and actually see the sacrifice that she made, that would make us more thankful to see that this was a major sacrifice. But finally, even to just that young girl who may be widowed or who may be orphaned as a young girl, I just felt that sharing my story would give them hope. Just seeing how I overcame would make them look and see, if Joyce made it, then I can make it. So those are the things that motivated me to write the book.
Thank you, Joyce. You're speaking, they use the phrase preaching to the choir. As you describe what motivated you to write the book, it resonates with me so much because I journal. And when I wrote the books, we had already, the first one I wrote before we left Kenya, but the others when I'm here. One of my daughter's high school teacher read the book and said it's titled Away from Home. Said, your mom has almost frozen a time, a moment in time. And that's great for the next generations. One day we were living in a small community in the rural, in Ontario, Canada. And the prospects of settling or even visiting back home was minimal. So I thought one day, grandchildren will ask, where did you come from? When their mother is old and great and I'm gone. And you can't capture all that story, and she may point them to, here is your grandma's book.
Yes.
Any words of wisdom for people exploring healthcare, for people who also are just thinking about sharing their story as a way of marking their stones of help? What are your words of wisdom?
My words of wisdom, I would start with a quote, and this quote is by Whitley Phillips, and he says this: "It is in the quiet crucible of your personal, private sufferings that your noblest dreams are born, and God's greatest gifts are given in compensation for what you have been through."
Wow.
Just to know that everything in your life, for those people who are thinking of healthcare, my book is called Caregiving, the Momentum of a Decision. Caregiving, because I felt caregiving doesn't want anybody.
Yeah.
But at the same time, caregiving is universal. And each one of us at one time are going to be in a caregiving phase. Either we are going to be needing caregiving, we'll give caregiving, we would have given caregiving, or we ourselves will be the recipients of caregiving. And yet we never talk about it. We never think about it. You know, you just wake up one day and you're like, in my case, my spouse got sick. I became a caregiver. Or my mother died. I had to step up and become a caregiver. But this is a reality in life that each one of us is going to go through, but we never stop to think about it. I don't know if we are in denial, or if we don't think, or we just think it's something that we'll just do when it happens. But my encouragement is, if we would all stop for a moment and start preparing for that day, because the truth is, it's coming. We're either going to be caregivers, we will be giving care, we will be needing care. So let us stop and think, what will that look like? What will that look like for us?
Thank you, Joyce. And we'd like you to come back closer to your book launch.
Yes.
Because you want to hear more about this book and know those who are within your location would love to come to your launch. And I think you'll have it virtual, so the rest of us can come. We will want you to come, either plan part of your launch to have it here on Ebenezer.
Yes.
Because Joyce, your testimony, your faith journey, your professional journey, your book, they align with the theme of Ebenezer, almost like they were meant together.
Thank you.
Yes, we would like you to come back and continue this story. Today, we want to ask, what are your hopes or dreams moving forward, or prayer requests as we say goodbye?
So my dreams are to empower other caregivers, especially nurses, because I'm a nurse here in the United States. There are opportunities for nurses, not just here in the United States, but in Canada, in the UK, diaspora nurse. So I want to empower that diaspora nurse who is looking for an opportunity to relocate their family to Canada, to the United States, to the UK. I want to empower that nurse, give them an opportunity. I know what this opportunity has done for me, and I would like for it to do that same thing, to bless their families and just cause them to be a blessing to other people. So that is my desire, and that is also my prayer request, that God would use this opportunity to help me be a blessing to other caregivers, and especially to nurses.
A beautiful prayer. By the way, sometimes I walk into the patients' rooms and they sometimes genuinely, they mistake me. They think it's the nurse who has come in.
Yes.
And some are older adults. And when you make description of spiritual care, etc., sometimes they don't see the clear cut difference. And then I would say, my name is Florence. And every now and then I've had them say back, oh, Florence Nightingale.
Nightingale, yes.
If only I could live up to that, but
I know her shoes are too big. Her shoes are too big. But I usually tell myself, I will be that small Florence Nightingale in my own way, because I was like, God, did you really think I could be a Florence Nightingale? And he almost gave me a resounding yes.
He has a sense of humor,
Florence
Joyce.
Nightingale, yes.
And he made sure that message was drummed to you as you were saying goodbye.
Yes.
Your husband didn't even stop to say goodbye. He wanted to make sure this message comes across. Florence, reconsider. And I thank God for him.
I thank God for him too.
He looks down, whatever way that those who have transitioned to eternity are aware. And I hope he gets a smile.
Yes.
And one day he'll say, I told you.
I told you. I got this.
Thank you, Joyce. Thank you, Joyce.
Yes.
Proud to call you Nyaminwa. And now I know you've had a long day. And I will say, till we see you again to hear more of the story. Have a good day.
Thank you so much, Florence, and be blessed. I hope all the listeners are blessed and are encouraged by this story and my journey. Thank you so much for having me.
We thank God for you. God bless you.
God bless you too.
Welcome back, and thank you for sticking around. We have concluded this two-part conversation with Joyce. I'm hoping that by listening to Joyce's story, by hearing her story, you have been inspired either to consider sharing your own story. God blesses us with experiences that are unique to ourselves. However, there is a connection, a common humanity, where experiences of one person may inspire or even help another person. You may write a memoir that may be read by a wider audience or just your network of family and friends. It doesn't matter how many people may pick up your memoir. It will only be picked up by people who need it and who may find your experience, may identify with your experience or find your experience helpful and relate with your experience. But not everyone journals or write memoirs. Some people sing, write songs and sing. That too is a way of marking your stones of help, of declaring your Ebenezer moments. However way, whatever method you use, cultivate a habit of laying your stones of help, of declaring your Ebenezer moments, of sharing God's word with either your immediate audience or a wider audience. On behalf of the Ebenezer team, those who work towards putting together these episodes to bring them to you here on Preach the Word Network, thank you for your faithfulness of joining us every week and making this show and this network part of your weekly routine. Thank you for joining us today. On behalf of Preach the Word Network, we are grateful that you choose us and watch inspiring testimonies of your fellow believers. Take time and share your personal stories. And if you have a story to share on Ebenezer Show, please reach us on our email, ebenezermoments@gmail.com. We'll be happy to invite you as a guest to share your story. Until we see you next week, we are wishing you a gentle week as you reflect on God's goodness in your life, and whether it's journaling or social media or writing a book or singing a song, whatever method, take those steps. Lay your stones of help and declare God's goodness. Ebenezer.